Hey everybody, it's Joe Knows Cryptos here with a video installment, and I'm going to just slow it down a little bit this time. I'm not used to making these videos, and sometimes I get a little bit excited and I start talking a little bit fast, and so I'm just going to slow it down a little bit today so everything I say comes out with my full thought and not just kind of rushing through to try to make my points quickly. So the last video I did, I talked about the stock market going down 500 points and then 1,000 points, and also how at the same time the cryptocurrency market was just getting slaughtered, just going down, 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 and then had some really big drops like 25% like one day, and a couple other days like 10 to 15%, and then another like 20% day. I mean, it was just getting killed for pretty much most of January and first couple of days of February. So I was asking, where's all this money going? Money just doesn't disappear once money comes out of a market. Somebody has it, somebody's holding it. So it wasn't going into the stock market. It wasn't going into the bond market. I don't know if people are just keeping it on the sidelines, but I have to say, and I did say in my last video, that when stuff like this happens, it almost reminds me of when the tech bubble burst that was around 1998, I believe. The market was going smooth, was going up, was going smooth, was going up, was leveling, was going up, and then it started jumping pretty good, when the tech stuff, started really building into a bubble. So the stock market's kind of been doing the same thing. It's been, building, going up, and it's been going up, 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 up. And then when the tech bubble crashed, it had a day where it would like go down, 500 points, but then it would go up 500 the next, then it would go down 300, then go up, 300, then go down like 600 and go up like 400, and then go down like another 600, and then people were waiting for it to go back up the next day, but the next day it would go down another 500. So then people would say, well, that's not cool. And then it would maybe go up 100 points the next day. And then the following day, go down like another 500-600 points. And then people got to the point, well, like, how much lower can this go? I'm not going to take my money out now because, it's bound to it's going to rebound. And, right now I'm just I'm only a little bit above where I bought in on this tech, cycle. And I want to make money. And then the market just continued to go down, 400 or 500 points a day for weeks. And, stocks that were, $200 went down to $50, $30. So, people really got wiped out. And that's a little bit of what's kind of reminds me of what's going on now with this stock market going up so much. I mean, it's been hitting all-time highs every single day. And then now we've had these 3 days of huge sell-offs, probably the biggest sell-offs that the stock market has had, in the last, ever since Trump got into office, actually. So I'm just wondering, I kind of have a hunch on what's going on here. And I I didn't have a YouTube channel at the time, but I go on Yahoo a lot, and I, go on the message boards, and I write a lot of messages and get a lot of comments and have discussions with people there. And I've been talking about for a while now that, these elite globalists, whatever you want to call them, have been trying to get Trump out of office pretty much ever since he got elected. They did a vote recount, which, well, first they said he wasn't going to win. He was going to get, slaughtered, but of course he won. Then they did a vote recount only to find out that he actually got more votes than they were claiming he did. So they stopped that real quick after they did like 1 or 2 states, and found out that his vote tallies were actually going up. And now they're finding that a lot of illegals and people voted multiple times. So he actually won not just the electoral vote, but the popular vote as well. So, there's some people out there not Trump fans, and that's fine. But if you believe that there's good and evil in this world, then then I believe that there's something bigger going on here. If you believe that it's not just the president that runs things, that there are people with more power, more money, and more influence that have been in control of not just America, but pretty much the entire world for the last, I mean, over 200 years, way back into, even before that. But, in the civilized world, they've pretty much controlled everything. They own the Federal Reserve. If you don't know how the Federal Reserve was started, you should read, I think it's called The Creature or The Story of Jekyll Island. And it's not about, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. It's about these 6 or 7 elite, very wealthy people for the time back in the early 1900s. Rothschilds, Rockefellers, those type of people. J.P. Morgan's, Morgan family, that had, pretty much all the money back then as well. They actually had a meeting, they got together, and they started the Federal Reserve. So they pretty much own the Federal Reserve. They own the money. People think that, America owns the Federal Reserve and we can tell the Fed what to do. That's not true. They're their own entity. They control America. So if you want to do a little research, you should read that Jekyll Island book. You can actually watch a YouTube video on it. It's maybe 20 minutes, but it explains a lot about how the Federal Reserve was created. Well, anyway, people in the Fed and people with power have this whole agenda, and I believe it's just to make everybody pretty much slaves. We pretty much are slaves now. We have to work for our paychecks, and it's never enough, and we're always in debt. And they want to continue that, and they want to even make it worse. Their plan was to have pretty much everyone dependent on the government. And that's where it was started with George Bush Sr. His son did the same thing. Obama turned it up about 10 times. I believe if Hillary got in the office, that all our sovereignties and freedom would have been gone out the window. They were transferring all our jobs overseas with TPP. Thank God Trump stopped that, because pretty much all of us in the next few years would have been reliant on government subsidies just to survive, just for food. I mean, as you know, the amount of people on food stamps doubled when Obama was in office. Well, that was about to double again pretty much every year until everyone is reliant on the government. Housing, we would have been reliant on the government. This is all a plan, and it's in white papers. It can be read about. This is not stuff that I'm just making up. This is a truth that a lot of people don't know about just because they've never heard it anywhere before, because these wealthy people also control mainstream media. They own CNN and NBC and Associated Press, and pretty much the people that you see on news, the news anchors, all they do is read a teleprompter or a script. They don't have their own thoughts, and if they do and they talk about them at length, they're just replaced with somebody who'll stay on the script. So basically, the story that you get on the news is a story that these elite pretty much want the news people to tell us. And of course, they try to hire people that are down with the agenda, so they don't have to threaten them with losing their jobs all the time. There are people who believe it sincerely, and I don't think they actually know the truth behind it, that this is all just a control game to make us all slaves. And I think that they think because they're on the inside that they're going to be part of the inside circle that's going to, get benefits from this. But, we're just like ants to these elite people. We're like bugs. They squash us under their feet, and they don't give two craps about us. There's ways to make yourself richer. If you can't get any more money, one way to make yourself richer than everybody else is to do what? Anybody have an answer? Well, if you can't make yourself any richer because you already have anything, how can you still make yourself richer than everybody else? What you can do is make everybody else poorer. So if everyone else is poorer, then you're making yourself richer. Just like, how can you make yourself smarter than the guy next to you? If you're just a human and everyone else is a human, and you're born a certain way with the average intelligence, how can you make yourself smarter than everybody else? You can study and you can do some things, but it's not going to raise your IQ that much. What you can do is you can make everybody else dumber. And we'll talk about the dumbing down of society in another video. But for now, I want to talk about finances. In the last video, I talked about, let me get back to where we're going with this. So I believe they're trying to stop Trump. And on my Yahoo posts, I stated that they were probably going to do something drastic around his start of his second year in office to make sure that when the 2-year primaries and different elections go on, that the Republicans get booted out and the Democrats get in. They want to make it really painful for Americans, make it really hard to justify voting for Republicans or for anyone who supports Trump. And I believe that this could be beginning right now, since this is what I believed right when he got into office. And I saw him, like I said, try to first do the vote count. Then they tried to say he was not physically fit. So he went to the doctor. They said he was one of the healthiest 70-year-olds that they've seen in their life. Then they tried to say that he wasn't mentally stable. He went to another doctor or psychiatrist, and they said that he's perfectly fine, that he got like a perfect score on one of the tests that was very unusual for people of his age, never mind his age, but for anyone to get. So he's got his wits about him, he's got his health about him, he won the votes fair and square. Then they tried the Russia thing, and now it turns out that that's just blowing up in their faces too, because there's no Russian collusion. Are you kidding me? I mean, how long have people known Donald Trump? I mean, he's on The Apprentice, he's real estate, casinos. I mean, to say that he's involved with Russia is insane. And now it's just, he could have stopped the investigation. Being president, he could have fired the head of the investigation, Mueller. But no, he's got nothing to hide. He just said, hey, go ahead, do your best. And, they got nothing. Now it's actually turning up that they're finding out things on Mueller and Comey and, a lot of other people in the FBI. And from what they're saying, a lot of heads are going to roll. A lot of people are going to get fired. And it's an embarrassment for the FBI. They invented this, they made up a paper that actually they hired a company where one of the guys doing the investigation his wife worked at. So they think she wrote up the paper. They gave her $600,000. Then she turned it over to the FBI as proof, something she made up. And then they got caught admitting that that's what they did in all these tweets that they have on file. So, and this is the news that doesn't get out in the mainstream, but if you look for it, you can find it. And it's insane. But anyway, I believe that one of the last things they try to do before they actually try to kill Trump is crash the economy or do some other type of a major league, big scale thing like, a 9/11 or something that they can kind of put the blame on Trump that, he's the cause of this. And I think crashing the economy is probably the easiest thing to do. And why do I say that? Well, hey, you look before Trump got elected.